Let's see, I called this November 10th meeting of the York County Planning Commission to order. Before we take a look at the agenda, I would just like to quickly introduce Mac Wallace, who is our newest Planning Commission member, and he is representing District 6. So taking a look at the agenda this evening, are there any changes?
Yes, we've had a request from the applicant for item number 11, which is case number 2548. They've requested to defer to a future meeting. They're recalculating their actual area for the rezoning. And staff is fine with that deferral.
So rezoning 25-48 is deferred. If there are no other changes, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And looking over the minutes from last month, are there any questions or changes or adjustments? If not, I will make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. And I know that our last member will be here this evening, but is running, had a
Conflict.
time, small commitment. So let's see, moving on to our first order of business. The Planning Commission is to consider and provide a recommendation for an amendment to Chapter 155 in the zoning code to change hotels from permitted to conditional uses, to establish certain use conditions, and to establish enforcement of such conditions. Whoever is presenting, if you'd come to the podium.
Yeah, if you're okay, I'll just present from here. I don't have anything formal to actually present to you. I'll just give you an overview and discussion of it, if you will. So, again, first time I've had the opportunity to address the Planning Commission, so I'm David Garner. I'm one of the Assistant County Managers, primarily overseeing our public safety departments, which will make sense in a second while I'm presenting on this. Differently from how ordinances are usually presented to council as they come by way of the Planning Commission, this was one, this ordinance change and recommendation came from the Sheriff's Office and was actually referenced out to the JPS Committee from County Council. So the intention of this is to limit extended stay in hotels in the unincorporated parts of York County. So the Sheriff's Office noted a considerable issue with crime, vagrancy, numerous issues, primarily around the lower end hotels across York County in the unincorporated area, and recommended a ordinance that would target extended stays, and actually the product of that was creating a conditional use instead of permitted use. So this would limit the extended stays in your normal hotels. A lot of this is going to be centralized around the Carowinds Boulevard area, but this is countywide. So if you're familiar with Rock Hill, this is similar to an ordinance that Rock Hill has in place, but this actually creates an extended stay classification in the use table and creates it conditional instead of a permitted use, and Rick can probably speak a little bit more to that. But it also establishes enforcement criteria for that. So it's a multi-agency jurisdictional enforcement that includes building codes, planning and zoning, Sheriff's Office, and including the Fire Marshal's Office. But in order to do that, it had to be an ordinance change that has to come before the Planning Commission as well. So County Council has already had some readings of this, and it is up for their public hearing and third reading. But with it being a change to the use table, it has to be presented to the Planning Commission for your input as well. I'm happy to answer any questions about that if you have any questions on the specifics of it, but that's the general synopsis of the purpose of this ordinance change.
I do have a question. I was actually pretty alarmed when I saw this. While I understand the idea behind it and the proposed reason, has homelessness of our district students been taken into account?
I don't know, I don't have any data on that. I know homelessness is another area of focus in our safe community goal in our strategic plan, working with a lot of nonprofits in the area. So that is a separate piece, but this is not to drive the homelessness part, because a lot of this is extended stays that are creating a crime problem around certain areas. So that is a secondary, but that is not part of this ordinance.
So I'll just share a little bit, because I work, or have worked in the past, with various aspects of the Elise Fort Mill School District. And so I reached out to Alana, who is the district social worker, and has counterparts in Rock Hill as well as York. And so she was able to provide me some information today that is frustrating for me, or a little bit alarming. But in the 2024-25 school year in York County, there were 212 families identified under the McKinney-Vento Act living in hotels. Right now, in the 25-26 school year, there are currently 110 families that they're aware of. But the only time that that question is asked is during initial registration. So obviously, that could be a fluid situation throughout the school year. There are 11 shelters in York County, so a possible alternative, but only one allows families that include a single father with children or boys over the age of 12, and only 3 allow women with children, and nothing for boys over 12. So I feel like this takes away a very needed resource. I mean, 110 families right now, that's a lot of kids. And I will say, I asked her to follow up and explain to me, how long she has seen families stay in this situation. And she said typically she has seen between 6 months to 2 years. So if we're talking about limiting long-term stays to 180 days in a calendar year, what are these families supposed to do for the rest of the year?
So if I can answer a little bit of that. So the intention is not to take away extended stay throughout the entire county. It is to limit it to permitted uses, and they would be conditional. Right now, there are no considerations for that whatsoever. This would actually create a conditional use. So the locations that intend to market themselves as extended stay can do that, but this is geared towards the ones that have lower rates, that have just a high occupancy rate, that are not necessarily considered homeless by kind of what you're defining, but are more so just staying around a central area, and that is what the crime rate has been attributed to. But there is still options. This creates the extended stay classification for the areas that are offering that. So it doesn't exclude that, it just creates another use. Am I correct in saying that, Rick?
I haven't looked at the revisions of the ordinance,
Okay.
so I would hesitate to say anything about that.
Okay.
Well, I just know you spoke specifically of the Carowinds region, and I do know that historically that has been an issue in terms of drug use and other activities, and I know that it's hard for the sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies, but I also know, at least in Fort Mill, that's where all of our transient families are living. So I find it difficult without more robust county services or shelters available to those families to make it harder for our most vulnerable students to be in a semi-structured and safe-ish environment. So I do understand what you're saying in terms of, a conditional use and spelling that out, but I think at least what I was reading, and maybe I'm, misunderstanding, it didn't seem to me like it was spelled out clearly enough, like what that delineation was. I mean, I understand the time, the time, but like how would that be advertised? How would they how would that resource be presented, or I guess to whoever's trying to help?
Yeah, so there is an educational period to work with the hotel owners and the managers. Part of the problem with what you're describing is the fact that we do not have any solid data on that because we cannot necessarily go solicit that data. It largely requires either the school district providing that, which comes into other privacy laws, or going door to door. And unfortunately, that's not an option. So that's a little bit of a moving target that we don't have any data to actually back that outside of, just a static point in time from the school district, but they can't provide us addresses or anything like that of ways to contact them. All we can do is go with the hotel owners or the managers to educate them, and then we do have the resources that we can provide and put them in touch, but we don't have a way to go find them, unfortunately.
I have a question. When you mentioned you don't have a way to go find them, are you talking about the individuals who are staying at those locations?
Yes, sir, because we do not have a registry. We do not track that information. Part of that is one of the requirements of this ordinance is to be able to provide that registry, but it is not a requirement today. So we could not go and find that information to be able to contact them as it currently stands.
Because here's a question I have, and then I want to get back to that original question I had. I live in Rock Hill, get on 77 at Cherry Road every day to go into Charlotte to work. And that street that's parallel to 77, if you know where that McDonald's is, and I think it's a pollo chicken or something they put there. There's a little road, the McDonald's on one end, on one side, and then the QT where Celanese is. There appears to be an extended stay or something along that strip. But if you cross Cherry Road, the McDonald's is on your left, and there are a number of, well, I would say hotels/motels along that strip. And there always appears to be a ton of people out, a ton of people walking. And when you mention this, that's the first visual that came to my head, that strip right along there. And me thinking, okay, they would want to impact something like this. Because when you're sitting there, you literally see people, you're about to approach the bridge, people are outside, etc. There are some hotels there that are not titled extended stay. I don't know if they market themselves as that, but if there's an extended stay on one block, and then there are others on the other block, and there's the same number of people, I don't know what the crime statistics are along that strip. If this is intended to curtail all of that type of activity, then how would it impact those other hotels? Have you all gone to those to see, hey, do you market yourselves as an extended stay, the lower rates, et cetera? Because they don't appear to have names that indicate that they are. But then there's another one that clearly says extended stay. So how are you differentiating the two? And if there's a problem that's being generated or contributed to by both, if we target one that says I'm an extended stay and I market myself as such, but the same activity is at another one that doesn't identify themselves, then aren't we kind of missing a whole area that's contributing to that? If you would just, are you looking at solely the ones who say we're extended stay and we market ourselves as such? But if I don't call myself an extended stay, but I still offer the same lower rates, I still have the same number of people who, I guess, are hanging around the hotel, and it looks like high crime, I would say that, I'll just be honest. What's differentiating how you address one versus the other?
So in the city of Rock Hill, the enforcement of that is on municipal police. So that is on the city officers.
Okay.
We do not enforce in Rock Hill.
Okay.
This would only be in the unincorporated parts of the county.
Okay.
And So we don't have that classification in the county. We don't differentiate the two. We would create that as part of this, and that's part of that education period, that if they do intend to classify themselves or offer that, that would be one of the conditional uses that they would have to apply for a permit for in order to be classified extended stay and to offer those rates beyond what would be in compliance with this ordinance. So the ones that you're referencing in Rock Hill, we don't enforce that.
Okay.
To go back to kind of both of their comments, do we know how many extended stays actually are in the unincorporated areas?
We don't have that classification, so we don't acknowledge any of them necessarily as extended stays. I believe there are at least.
No, I'm talking about existing extended
Yeah,
stays.
I believe there's one, possibly two, that do market themselves as extended stays, but it's not a classification that we officially recognize or have part of their permit application process.
And what if it was a situation like you had brought up, where you have an extended stay in an unincorporated area, and then the same situation comes up, not in Rock Hill, but how would you address that?
What are you asking?
Well, what if there was,
Take the scenario that I gave and just put it in
In
the
an unincorporated
unincorporated
area.
area that you're mentioning.
Excuse me. The concept of extended stay might be a misapplied term that needs definition in this ordinance. What the issue to be addressed is lengthy stays in a hotel to which you spoke, or a motel for which the durations of stay exceed the maximum limit expressed in the ordinance. So in this case, the term of art, whether you're extended stay hotel or not, would not be applicable. All extended stay hotels are hotels. So this is going to address length of time in any category of hotel or motel,
Okay,
whether extended stay or not.
okay, okay.
Now, what you point out, perhaps, is that the extended stay definition needs to be refined to
Okay.
meet those existing hotels that have a certain market plan. And so we can certainly look at that
Okay.
in the context of this
I think that's
ordinance.
good.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
I think what we're talking about is a difference between extended stay in time period regardless of the establishment and establishments that have been specifically identified as
Yes.
extended stay type hotels.
That makes perfect
And what the ordinance is doing is about the time, not the type of establishment.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What does enforcement look like for this? So is it just like you get a call and they go out and then, what is it, a fine? What is it if say the hotel is not complying with this?
Yeah, so there are penalties described in the ordinance that would be assessed to the property manager or owner. I believe the owner of record is referenced in the ordinance. So there are fines associated with it. There's an education period to ensure that they're aware of any potential violations before it ever arose to the level of enforcement.
Okay.
There's an opportunity to cure as well.
I think it's $20 per day that they've
Is that
written
what it's-
into the
Okay,
ordinance.
I think I missed that part. Do we have data for you, because you said Rock Hill has this, right? Do we have data on how it's worked for them? Has it decreased crime?
I don't have that data. I would have to ask the sheriff's office if they've been able to collect that or receive that. So I don't have it, but I could ask for it.
Okay. I would like to know that.
I got a follow-up. So on page 3, talks about maximum stays extended beyond 30 consecutive days shall be limited to not more than 180 days under the following, natural disaster, fire, or whatever, and then it gives a few more. Kate, you brought up a really good point about schools and stuff like that. I don't know if we could be that specific here, but that would be where you would put an additional, whatever,
Condition.
if it met the condition, right.
An
Yeah,
exemption
like,
to the-
like, excellent point, Kate. So it could go right here.
What was that for? I'm sorry.
Well, it was before you got
Yeah, I
in
know.
here.
Yeah, sorry, catching up.
Well,
No, just
Kate,
to-
you want to go ahead?
Just to recap, the homeless population for our students within, I'm most familiar with Fort Mill School District, but all of the county districts, so far this year is 110 families that are classified as homeless and living in hotels. Last year, it was over 200. And so there are, there's a federal statute that guarantees them school, but obviously, we don't have a lot of resources in York County for
Right.
shelters and specifically family shelters. So that's my largest concern.
I see, I see.
But I think it's generic enough in here, but, the cases where you can extend more than 180 days. Yeah, so I think it's something.
Exceptions.
Something we
Yeah.
could put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And in addition, I was even thinking, I think you don't have any resistance as far as wanting to target the crime. I think everybody understands that. Lock and step with you. It's those families, because while we're sitting here, I just thought of, knowing a particular family that's been impacted. Is there a way, because when you mentioned earlier, you don't have the data, but if I'm the business owner and I don't want to have my business impacted, but I clearly see a family with kids have come in here and they're at the 100-day mark, is there some requirement, or is it possible to have them say, okay, ma'am, sir, understand, if you all partnered with maybe some agency or something where you require them to at least show proof that, hey, we've contacted school system resources or someone else is aware of what's going on, and that there are young kids here, and they are classified, identified, categorized, whatever word we want to use. So we don't pass something like this and they end up being kicked out on the street because they're already going through enough. But we can target the other people. Because now that we bring it up, I'm even thinking of child trafficking. If someone comes in there with a child, is there a way to require, or maybe you all can consider partnering with another agency, and where I don't think anyone here would oppose, we would enforce requiring them to provide something to account for, here's a parent, here's a child, a resource officer has been contacted, you can verify that. So if the sheriffs show up, do you have form, whatever, to show that someone has been contacted regarding that adult and that child, if they're in school, et cetera, et cetera. So I would think that would address a number of issues. For us, peace of mind to say, hey, we put something in place, so if that child is registered, they have a resource officer, we're not putting them out on the street. If you are just there, you're past the 180 days, okay, we address the problem that you're trying to address. But if someone's in the gray area, they snatched a child and they're just there, maybe to traffic the child, they're going to be questioned or whatnot. Even if you don't prevent it, they know, but we can't just go walk in a place with a child. Just some measure to put in place.
I think there is a way that we could expand the registry requirement
Okay.
to encapsulate that as well. Because the registry requirement on the part of the hotel to provide that for inspection is a requirement of the ordinance. I believe that could be expanded to what you're talking about as
Okay.
well, to provide that at that time.
Okay.
Along with the documented exemption under that list of
Yes.
exemptions in the beginning.
Right.
And maybe spell out the basic framework that the schools will work with the county and law enforcement in those specific instances that would occur.
So if the hotel manager doesn't follow through with it, or owner, and you show up, their business is impacted, so they have skin in the game to make sure that all of this, there's compliance.
Yes, sir.
I've got another suggestion, and it may be covered by the language already, but I can conceive of a case of someone who has decided to build their dream home and sold their previous home and had to move out and is looking for temporary and
That's
maybe
It
goes
has
a little
that
bit
out.
beyond.
It has
Did
that
that?
here.
Yeah, that's in there.
That is one of the already listed exemptions.
Is that remodeling? Or where, see, that's where
It's remodeling or displacement. It can be any of those.
I just, maybe the language in that, because it's just remodeling, well, no, I'm not remodeling, I'm building a brand new.
Sure.
Just
We
to,
can certainly clarify that.
yep, that's all. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Well, with all the changes we have, do we need to see a revised version before we could make a motion on what's in front of us? Is it a motion to defer to review again next time, or we could use some guidance there, I think?
Well, I would think we would make a motion with our proposed changes and then vote on it that way.
Okay? Is there a way to delineate out those changes? Maybe we get a little guidance from you all of how we, because we've thrown a lot at you here this evening, right?
I would agree.
Well, so,
I'm not interested in delaying the process.
right.
But I want to make sure that whatever we're asking for is communicated effectively, and I'm not sure how to do that with all we threw at them, so.
So
That's-
in addition to potentially a variance or a waiver for, let's say, children that are enrolled in school, what additional are we talking about?
So we talked about,
Remodeling,
about
rebuilding, the
more
school
things.
registration, and then the clarification of the extended stay in terms of the ordinance itself.
So, a more detailed definition and then additional wording on the building.
wording about the resident that it's beyond remodel, it could be new construction, but for whatever reason, they're,
And a school exemption along with the registration requirement.
Right.
so however we phrase all that, I'm good. I'm just, this is always fun
You
when we're
could
in the
say
midst of
remodeling
doing
and
it.
new construction.
Yeah,
So
I'm
just-
happy to make.
Just add those two
I'm
words.
happy to make a motion. I would make a motion that we accept with some amendments, the first of which being a better definition of long-term extended stay. Second would be the addition of additional wording when it comes to remodeling to include also new
New
build.
New construction.
Yeah,
New
New
construction.
construction, new build. And thirdly, to exempt families with children enrolled in county schools to include over the summer months when school is not in session.
What about families with children who don't have school-age children?
That is a good point.
So could it just say families with children that are experiencing
I would be happy with that.
And that brings up your point about trafficking.
I'd like the focus on the school. That's an excellent point, though. It's just some way to formulate that, to capture that younger child, baby, infant, toddler age group that might not be in school yet. We can certainly work on that to have that a component of the exemption.
Okay.
But not dependent on having older children. Does that make sense?
Yes,
You don't have to have an older sibling.
that's right.
But are we addressing your point?
The trafficking,
Yes.
Well, that's what the registration was, right?
Would do, yeah.
Okay,
Which is already,
okay,
you're getting all that information.
okay. I got you.
So I guess the the registration would need to include assigned school, or, but that's, I don't think that needs to be included in this, correct?
It does not, it'll be in the amendment itself.
So again, my motion is to add to the definition of extended stay or long-term to include new build in addition to remodeling as a reason for extended stay, and then also children enrolled in school with also
Children under school age?
I was going to say, also to include children who have not yet reached the age of school.
Then I think I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? No? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to our second item of new business, which is the master sign plan. L. Karen Party is requesting approval of a master sign plan for the Westlake Market Development. The subject property is zoned general commercial and located at the northwest corner of Highway 55/Highway 274 intersection, Council District 2. This was an item that was deferred from last month.
Thank you. I'll start over since it was deferred for the work here. Again, the master sign plan, just kind of going over what master sign plans are supposed to do. We're here because we expect a development over 100,000 square feet, and required to have a master sign plan, and you may approve, may modify they may ask for modifications to the sign plan. If you don't approve the sign plan, thumbs down. They just got to comply with current sign standards. And the current sign standards will apply to any signage that's not addressed in their plan. We kind of have a sign package for the entire development here, and the applicant has provided examples of the signs they're requesting, and compared to the rest of what is found in the sign code, I've also included some examples of signs I found that were good comparisons. In essence, you're being asked to approve the deviations from code. And this is big, long, and complicated. There's a lot of decision points. I've tried to break it down into like 5 sections. What we would like to do is I'll go over the whole presentation, kind of digest it. If you want to hear from the applicant or not, or have questions, you can ask them. And then what I would ask is to maybe make a motion to approve the whole sign plan. And you can go through 1 through 5 and decide if you want to amend it or not, and maybe that'll organize the thoughts and kind of get bite-sized pieces. The first thing I broke down is the monument entrance signs. We just call them monument signs. They're proposing 2 entrance signs. There's a deviation from code. Sign A is proposed to be 5 feet away from the right-of-way. We find this is justified due to the from 10 foot due to the site conditions. I got a picture of that, and we'll talk about it on the slide. They're also requesting a total sign area of 255 square foot each for each of these. That constitutes a deviation from the allowance of 150 square foot for these unified developments that have frontage. And so this here shows you a little area that's left over where they want to put the sign. And they want to get a little bit closer to the right-of-way, and they want to get closer to the homegrown way, not to compromise the highway. And when they come in to permit the sign, they're going to have to show that they're not in a site triangle. If they're in the site triangle, then we're not going to be able to approve it. They would have to come by and get some sort of variance if that was the case. So I think that's a pretty reasonable request. Here's another one in the eye of the beholder. These signs are on Dave Lyle in Rock Hill. The dimensions of the sign are pretty much right on with what the applicant has. You know, the grade is a little different. You would probably, their signs are from the lower part of the grade for if you're measuring total height. These signs have the sign area in the middle of that. That's pretty much in line with the 155-ish area when I went out and measured it. The difference would be that they're asking the 255 would take the space of everything but the brick, could take it all the way to the top and all that way here, it'd all be messy. So that would be the basic difference that you would see on the ground. There's a picture of it, and pretty much the same thing. Those are 17 feet tall. From brick to brick, those were about 24 feet or 25. It's pretty much the same sign. This is kind of the site plan. You can see where the freestanding A and B is, and the out parcels. And we can go back and use as a reference when we talk about other signs. Next, we're going to talk about monument signs for the out parcels. The applicant is proposing 50 square foot of message on an 8-foot tall sign. There's no allowance in code for unified developments to have these monument signs. They get a big entrance sign, and they would have wall signs on out parcels. Lots of non-residential development, or non-residential developments are minor non-residential, which this isn't, would be allowed to have the monument signs out there, and they could be up to 15 foot tall and 75 square foot. So, the applicant proposes 8-foot tall signs with 50 square foot of messages for out parcels 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is pretty much right on with what they're asking. It may be a foot taller depending on the grade, but that's basically a 50-foot sign out there in Dave Lyle. Number 3, wall signs. They're requesting 2 square foot of signage for each linear front of the building facade. The deviation of 100%, basically, we allow 1 square foot per linear foot in a code. They've, in their applicant, they tempered this with the design of less than maximum signage for the out parcels of the shop tenants, which may or may not be the benefit. It's a little convoluted. It depends, it's all equation, depends on how much frontage they take and so forth. So I'm not sure how much to put into that, but regardless, they want 2 square foot of signage. And the other parts of this, they want 300 square foot of sign message for the anchor tenant. I don't find a big problem with that. We talked a couple weeks ago about some amendments that came via the Planning and Zoning Committee, and we recommended that they could have larger signs. And then one more, they're asking for more than 1 sign per wall. Again, another thing that kind of on the road to hopefully maybe be an amendment. Not too much of an ask. And the other one is another stylistic feature. My understanding, they're proposing allowance for a canopy sign along 80% of the canopy to fit within the wall sign allowance. That being the case, not a big problem. You have the same amount of signage that you'd have regardless. This is a deviation from the 10% allowance in code. Kind of works a little different way in code. I think that's an addition to the wall signage, but this would fit in with it. It's kind of stylistic in nature and really wouldn't amount to more signage than allowed. So this is, the applicant provided this to kind of show you the difference between the smaller squares, 1 square foot of sign per linear foot. The next is 1.5 foot, and the third is 2. And they put that on script, what you might see in the signage. On top you have the 1, and then to the right you have 1.5, and you have the 2 square foot bottom left. Be a little different proportion of those. This is an example of the storefront. Those can be canopies. You might see some letters on the canopies or something like that for canopies. Other signage. These are signages that we generally don't permit, but they're asking for a little deviation, so I'd give them to you, and hopefully make this understandable. So the incidental signs are kind of like directional signage, and they want them at 6 feet tall and 6 square foot. Our code has an allowance of 4 feet and 2 square foot for these signs. The next is temporary signs. It's something we don't permit. I mean, through the office is permitted, they would put them up and hopefully be within our code allowance. The code allowance allows for one 32 square foot sign. They would like 2, and they would decrease their allowance of 16 square foot signs from 5 to 4, somewhat of a trade-off. And the next one is about the 8 foot tall signs. This would apply to the up to 32 square foot sign. They would like to have, 2 of those signs on site rather than the 1. And they'd have a decrease in the 15-foot signs from 5 to 4. And if you're thinking about what is a 15-foot sign, it's probably the feathers or the flags or something like that. A 32-foot sign could be something other than that. One more thing. The fuel center, that's a monument. That's one of the out parcel monuments. So that's kind of wrapped into that request for the monument sign. They want to put LED fuel prices, probably something we could update the code with, because the options of non-LED are probably not as good as LED. Having a changeable copy sign is probably less attractive. But so regardless, maybe wherever they might have to put this, it's a good idea to maybe let them have the LED. So these are the decision points that we can come back to. And
Can you clarify for me, is the fuel sign an additional sign, or is that the second monument sign?
yeah, we want the out parcel
It
monument
is.
sign.
Oh, it's one of the out parcel.
Yeah, and this
Isn't
is,
it bigger than what we said the out parcel was?
yeah, it is a little bit.
By
You got like a message area, and then you got,
okay,
the fuel area, and the applicant could probably
gotcha.
go over that. And correct me if I was taken on any of that. It's kind of complicated application. All that, we have 84, that's considering the fuel prices aren't messages.
So, could we go back to the drawing you had with the larger signs in section 1 that showed where they were going to be placed? Right. Okay. And can you back up one slide real quick? Sorry, one more. Yep. There we go. So, when we look at this and see where this is in relation to the road that's crossing perpendicular in front of it, Dave Lyle, right? And come back to your Ruby Tuesday sign, okay?
Yeah.
Can you come back to that one, couple more in, one more, right here?
Yeah.
And how far away that sign is from Dave Lyle Boulevard. So that seems to me like it's more than 5 feet, but we're being asked in this that these would only be 5 feet?
No, the one. So,
A.
the one on A over there, and I have another slide that shows you that they have like a little remainder right here. So it would go somewhere right in there.
So how far back from Charlotte Highway would that be placed? That would be
They would
the
have to
5
be out
feet?
of the site triangle. I would say 10, but it may be more than 10 depending on, where that is. They can't block the traffic.
Right.
No.
So what's the request? Was there any, it's just the size of the sign in the first
They,
one? It's
well, the
nothing
one
about this-
request is to get 5 foot closer to Homegrown Way. Because if they go up to the narrow part of that triangle, they just don't have a lot of, there's not
I
a lot of room
understand.
there to back
Okay,
it
so
up.
they're shortening the setback from Charlotte and
From-
getting,
From the Homegrown Way. Charlotte would still, so that sign's gonna face Homegrown Way, it's gonna be perpendicular to Homegrown Way. And it'll be back from the setback, from the highway, but it'll be a little closer to Homegrown Way than our code allows. We'd want at least 10 foot from the right of way.
so it'll be parallel with Charlotte Highway.
Yes. No, Homegrown Way. It'd be going
I
that
thought I just-
direction on Homegrown Way.
I'm having a hard time with my perpendicular and parallel, okay? But
Well, you got two
what I
agree
what I
roads.
remember from school, I thought I heard him say perpendicular to
Homegrown.
Homegrown Way.
Yeah.
you
right?
mean parallel?
You mean
Parallel.
parallel.
Yes.
Okay, on me, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Railroad tracks, like railroad.
Okay, I
I'm
was
with
doing
you.
good.
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
moment.
People
So,
are
so what
traveling-
we're trying to do is move from the smaller angle in that triangle towards Charlotte so that we can get it spaced away from Homegrown Way, but still parallel with Homegrown Way. Is that?
No.
No.
That-
I get the applicant to talk about this, because I didn't, you seen the,
I'm
the
trying to-
example, so they're, at that direction, it's,
Yeah.
well, that's back off of, back off of the highway and a little bit closer to Homegrown Way, because it kind of, you got
So,
the return.
and that will reduce how far it is away from Charlotte
From
Highway?
Homegrown Way.
From homegrown.
It won't impact how far it is from the highway. It's
So
just
it's right
setting it
there.
a
That'd
little
be
bit more
5 feet, like,
snugly
right there.
to Homegrown Way.
And it's still, there's still,
So, all right,
10,
so,
but-
okay, so
but
it's
it's-
coming towards Homegrown Way, but it is not getting any closer to Charlotte
That's
Highway.
my
The
understanding.
long side
not
is,
than the code says, and like I said, that's to be determined by the site when,
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, because that's setback, when you talk about site triangle, is trying to see down Charlotte Highway to come out of there, right? Okay, and I was trying to understand, which obviously wasn't clear to me by everything I asked, of how, if they were trying to move that setback at all. Okay,
but
It has to be-
But it's parallel to homegrown way, the long side of the sign, or the width of the sign, or the whatever.
I-
The way it's,
from-
the way it freestanding sign
From
A,
that
right?
picture, I would say that the sign is standing parallel with,
Homegrown.
Homegrown Way.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It's all right.
Is there any consideration for putting that sign on out parcel 3? Where you might
You could
have
ask the
more room?
applicant about that. I just have the application it is. That's
Okay.
not something I discussed.
'Cause if you look at the other location, freestanding B, I understand who owns the property, but it is within the boundary of the shopping center, let's call it, as opposed to before or after the shopping center. It's right there on the corner.
What you're bringing up, John, is like sign B. It's within,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, he's saying if A was mounted the way sign B was, it'd be
Yeah.
in the same thing and wouldn't be an issue. Okay. I think that's all I had for number one.
I had another point for number one. If you drive through Lake Wiley now, there isn't anything that approaches that size in terms of signage. And there are other there's the public shopping center, there's the Food Lion, there are other shopping centers along 49. Nobody has a sign that's anywhere near this size. And you're asking about, I understand the Harris Teeter is set back, it's not on 49 or 274 or 55. But there are going to be multiple signs, whether they're canopy signs, whether they're freestanding, whether they're on the side of the building. I have a personal bias, I guess, for proposing anything that exceeds the current standards, whether they're published or not. What's currently there, and would we be setting a new precedent by approving such a
Is-
large sign?
Is this considered in Lake Wiley?
Yes.
And, okay, so another question I had kind of in general is the Lake Wiley
Does the
overlay
overlay
district
affect it?
have anything to do with
Signs?
this?
Yeah.
And does it become a conflicting,
So
oh
the
yeah, you
code-
can have that, but we violated the overlay district, which was put together for a special reason, et cetera, so.
Well, the code comparisons are with the sign allowances in Lake Wiley. And through that long thing, I did want to bring up 1.2, and we could talk about this a little, about the monument signs. If you want to entertain the monument signs, you could also put different restrictions on that, whether, they didn't know where they're going to put them. If you didn't want more signs on the highway, it could be interior signs or things like that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, they are the standards that we're comparing them to is the Lake Wiley signs.
Oh, I just got a couple, whatever. One clarification on on number one, you've got 150 square foot in your second paragraph, but then in your staff analysis, you got 105, so I just want to make sure that it's the same 150, and that's just a
Yeah,
typo.
150 is the allowance that they would have
Okay,
within
so,
code. They
yeah,
could
that
get 20
typo,
foot tall
yeah,
and
that needs
150.
to be, right. In number two, maybe you can clarify some things for us. It says the commission, in your staff analysis, it said the commission may want to explore if there's any unique site conditions that warrant the request. Could you give us an example of that?
This is a new site. I mean, site conditions to me would be something to be overcome with an existing site. Maybe there's some, I don't know, grade challenges if this was non-frontage, or if somehow they weren't able to reach their audience for whatever conditions they may find. I'm not certain, but usually when we're looking at variances or things when people need more signage, maybe there's a reason, maybe the applicant has an answer for that. She may be providing it.
raising her hand the
But,
whole
you know,
time.
there's things to consider, but I don't, you see in the application, I didn't
Right.
see any of that exactly. And this is a fresh greenfield site, so.
So really, to leave it gray, would probably be best. But I just wanted to see if you had examples. And then in number three, it says, down at the bottom here of the page, says the request regarding the additional signs per wall, canopy allowance, and 300 square foot maximum are reasonable, but staff recommends additional scrutiny, the request to double the sign message area per linear foot of wall. So what could we put in here that would stipulate that, or are we going to talk about amendments?
Well, you'll be able to make a recommendation where you accept the 2 square foot per linear foot or something else, or you'd have to go back to 1. That's in your discretion.
Okay.
And just so I'm clear, the signs that you showed us on Dave Lyle, those are current standards, so that's the 150-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, I would call that a compliant sign with the 150 for the frontage. That's what you'd see, or what you could get out of that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know how tall those are?
About 17 feet. I mean, they're right on the money. Like I said, the grading is a little different, like I said, the tall end, the long end of that target sign's probably right at it. The other ones maybe a little bit, just because of the grade change, they go a little bit shorter.
I know this is getting down into the weeds, but with lettering going up like that instead of across, sometimes people going, they gotta turn their heads when they're driving, and that's not such a good thing, especially if you can't, hey, what is that? It's just a comment. I'd rather,
There is a
I'd
science
rather
to
see
that.
lettering, how we read. But that's just kind of my overview on that. Sorry.
No, you're good. Don't apologize. So we have essentially one vote, but broken down into 5 parts. Unless somebody has a specific question, it's not a time. That's the county's job. So again, unless somebody has a specific question, does anybody have a specific question? So does anyone have a motion?
Can my question be, what does the applicant perceive as the inaccuracies presented?
You can ask any question you'd like.
So I'd like to put that question forward to the applicant.
So if you would, please come up and state your name at the podium and your address. We appreciate it.
My name is Karen Partee. Our office is at 2825 South Boulevard in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thing actually point at it or not? Okay. Here we go.
There you go.
So this parcel here is owned by, and Ted, help me, it's News Center? News Center, who sold us, help me out, our parcel for development. And as part of that transaction, the agreement was that we would provide them signage at our entrance because they were tucked back behind this other parcel and would not have signage on 49. They understand that that is their signage. They won't get their own monument sign. So we are not over code. We've got, I'm going the wrong direction. We've got 100, sorry, so sorry. We've got 150 square feet allocated for the shopping center, and then we've got 75 square feet for News Center, for that parcel. And your ordinance allows that. It allows a 50% bonus when you are combining two different projects onto one sign. So that gets you to 225. You see, I've asked for 255. The additional 30 square feet are for our crooked sign. I'm willing to remove Westlake Market. It's nice to have the shopping center identified because somebody can say, hey, let's go get coffee at Westlake Market. Otherwise, they're going to say, let's go get coffee at the Harris Teeter Shopping Center. It's not a big deal. If we're going to have to give up something, I'm going to give up the 30 square feet because I really, with 18 shops, I need at least these 6 blue panels for my leasing team to be able to lease this space. That's all I'm getting to use. Harris Teeter's going to use this big orange space up here, and New Center property is going to use the green. So it complies with code. It's just nobody's acknowledging the fact that we're representing this other piece of property back there. So that was one of the ways that I felt like we needed to clarify.
Can I ask a quick question about the property?
Absolutely.
Would that secondary property that you're helping also become part of the shopping center at some point?
It will be operated entirely independent. They'll
So it
have-
wouldn't, the name Westlake would not apply to that property, I guess is my question.
Ted, unless you know differently?
I don't know if they know. Okay. Yeah. I'm just giving you another reason to remove the Westlake because it could be confusing.
Not an issue. And then going back to the question on, just to clarify, I think we got there, but yes, our intent is to keep that sign tucked back in here, but we have a 5-foot setback from their property line and a 5-foot setback from the homegrown that we're asking for, as opposed to 10 and 10, which would have meant that triangle was too narrow to put anything. And while I heard the request about putting the sign on
the
this
out parcel?
parcel, historically, I think I told you last time, our company's been at this a very long time. You're going to want to grab your customer as he comes down and let him see that sign, or he has to make the decision to turn in.
Yes, I think it is smart to have it before the turn as opposed to after.
So that's our
'cause-
goal there. That's what we would like to be able to accomplish.
If you're trying to make the turn after and look left and
Exactly.
read it sideways, you're never going to
There
make
you
the
go,
turn.
you're never gonna
We
make
don't
it.
Never
want
going
that.
to make the turn.
So as it relates to the monument sign, that's where we are. I also brought another visual with me, and I don't know if this is going to be helpful or not, but and I was hoping to get it. One second, I need to see if I can figure out where the 40 feet is.
Uh-oh.
That might be close.
If Arnold Schwarzenegger comes out of that, we're all in
I
trouble.
used AI
Yeah,
to help me figure out if I had a sign on the building and you were, which clicker, which direction? Site plan? Yeah. If you were at one of those 400-foot marks, let's say you had pulled up, you were going into the Harris Teeter, and you look over and you say, oh, what kind of shops do they have over there? Would you be able to read it? So this would give you the same impression as if you were standing 400 feet away, except you're 35. So there's what the sign would look like per ordinance. Actually, it would look a little smaller since you're not quite 40 feet.
okay.
If it were 1.5 feet, sign would look like that.
It's like an eye test.
And at 2, it would look like that.
Thank you for the visual.
Yeah.
Any other questions I can answer for you?
I'll follow up on those signs. Would they be proposed on both the street side and the shopping center side of those buildings?
Yes, because many of those tenants will not have representation on the monument sign, we're going to encourage them to put signs on the back of their building so people know they're there.
Okay. And that could be the same in the out parcels?
Yes.
The out parcel signs, the 8-foot signs, are those proposed on the inside or the outside? I wasn't clear on that. I know I'm changing the subject.
They would be on the roadside.
They would be on the roadside?
If the tenant chooses to put them, I mean, with building signage, you know, some will and some won't, probably. But if anything else isn't clear, I'll be glad to come back and clarify.
Thank you.
And if I
Thank
can
you.
sit like this, that means I want to.
Rick, I'm sorry, could we go back, real near here was a aerial photo of the parcels here? Yes, okay.
If you wouldn't mind, a couple things. It's worthy to want to provide signage for somebody else's property. Technically, not a frontage issue. They have frontage, not there. And our sign code just allows them to have that much signage. They put whatever they want on it. But, a worthy thought, something to think about.
Is there any stipulation in this that the other party understands they're not going to be able to have any additional signage because of what's being included for them? here?
No, none. If you approve this, they can put what they want on the sign. I mean, you can't, as far as sign code, we can't regulate the message.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the designation of part of the sign for the undeveloped property, right? That's what I think we were just.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we don't really talk that language. It's a sign.
Understood,
and
but
doesn't
we could make
matter.
that as an amendment, that it's,
I would recommend against it, just because that goes against sign law and the amendment. You're allowing a space for them to put a message. It's their decision what they can put a message on. I think it's a little dicey. You could ask Michael, but technically, and we have-
yeah.
yeah. If they would have additional restrictions.
So, yeah, what I'm just trying to clarify here is what I think I just heard was, oh, by the way, keep in mind that what we're adding down here is not for us, it's for them when they come along. Okay, great. Hey, that doesn't violate the code. Okay, great. Are all the parties clear? Then that's it. There's not going to be another big sign for the next development that happens in that other parcel because your signage just got included in what we gave you the deviation for.
Good question.
Okay. That's where I'm trying to
You
get
have a
to.
thought on, that could
He
go
was a sign
different
expert,
ways.
right?
I just wanted to tell him, I was following, what you were saying. You're saying we don't have a name for this development. Is the
People
new
in
center
Green.
property shown
Yes.
on here, and they're trying to include the yet unknown or yet to be determined development here
Yes.
into their signage, and that's where the additional entrance sign area is being included.
Right.
And I think that's fair. If it was to be included, it should be part of the master sign plan. It should be included and held to the master sign plan, and any changes that come in the future, it would have to come back in front of a board and have those changes approved, because it's encumbered by the master sign plan as well. If it's part of this entrance signs, then it's included as well, even though we don't have a site plan for it, so we don't have it defined. Is this the Harris Teeter project? But I think that's true. I think you're correct.
Okay, and we wouldn't have to say anything special about that. I'm hearing from what you're saying, it's included by default because a deviation from that would need to come back to us.
Yeah,
I know I'm getting in the weeds here, but
it
I'm
is.
just trying to
I'm
make
just
sure.
trying to think in the application, if it's clear, maybe Karen can speak to that. If it's clear that it is encumbered by it, but somebody that may be something the board could add as a condition just to make sure, just because I'm trying to think back through the application. And because this development has not been approved by, they were reviewed, just in concept, it would be good to clarify it to make sure it is part of the master sign plan, therefore these stipulations do apply. And any
Okay.
changes would have to come back, update the master sign plan when this development actually comes forward and we can actually see a site plan for it.
Great. Now, if we can just remember how to say that when it comes time to vote.
So Mike, am I understanding you correctly that what you are concerned about is that when the new not subdivision, when the new shopping center or development is built, that they will then come to us and say,
Then they'll come to us
but we
with
want
an-
a big sign.
we want our big sign.
10 feet down from the
Yep.
existing sign.
Yep,
That's-
and we've already designated space over here for this big sign and
And made
given
it
an
bigger.
Oh,
exception
that's
to make
another
it
parcel
bigger so that
anyways.
you could
Right.
have it,
Right.
so, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if we're using.
So everybody's clear.
If
But
we're
add-
using that as the basis for approval, then it should be included, correct?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Thank
If
you.
we're
Sounds
saying,
like
oh,
it.
Yeah.
you're asking for all of this and saying it's rolled in together, then cool, let's just codify that and make sure everybody's on the same page that that's what we agreed to. So that we don't have a later on of, oh, no, we added that for other this, and we
Oh,
still
I
want
hear
to
you,
have it.
yeah.
Yep, that's all.
Thank you.
I don't know if Michael had a thought on that, because I just have the one problem of regulating what they use the signage for, if that's
Not
okay.
regulating content, they're just regulating allocation of signage.
Okay, so that they would be encumbered because we say so.
Content, simply,
But I mean, the next, so they would be, so that lot would have to be part of this whole sign plan. They would have to come here and amend this sign plan. They couldn't have their own.
well, I would need to know what is considered a master design, sign plan, master sign plan. So if this is in fact part of the master sign plan for that development area, then it will be included. I think what the board's concern is, just to be absolutely clear, acknowledge the representation that that signage is allocated to that parcel as well.
Okay.
Not content,
I have another question.
footage.
Would that apply to both signs? Would you have to reserve space on the other one on 55? Because you can also get to that future location from 55.
I didn't understand the request to be different for the two different master monument or entrance monument. I'm not
Master-
sure,
yeah.
I'm getting my monuments mixed up here. So those are the entrance monuments, right?
Correct.
And I didn't see different versions for A or B. I saw that there'd be A and B, and we've asked for it to be this way, unless I misunderstood.
Just trying to get a clarification. Is the intention both signs would be equivalent? Okay, thank you.
I think they're trying to do a neighborly thing. I'm just trying to make sure that
Oh,
their neighbors
absolutely.
understand what they're getting.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any additional questions?
I don't think so. Can we go back to the summary 5.1 at the end there. Okay. Nope. I'm good. Thank you.
You're good?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the master sign plan with the ability to go through each of the 5 areas if there's additional points that want to be brought out, I guess.
So I think you need to make a motion with the amendments, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we need to,
Right, that's what I'm saying, amendments, well.
so do you have them?
Oh,
So
You
you're
need to
making a
make your
motion to
motion.
approve
oh,
all with
no,
amendments by section.
Okay, we've already discussed them, so.
Correct.
Yeah, so I make I strike that, sorry about that. I make a motion to approve the master sign plan. The way it's written.
The way it's written.
Without any
So without
change.
Without any
No, with
amendments?
changes, I'm sorry, with changes.
So-
So we gotta go over all these
We got to go through the
changes.
changes.
I think you could vote to approve and then make amendments to the motion.
Well, that's what I was trying to do.
And now,
No, do
No.
not vote to approve.
Yeah, we
Make
don't
a
want,
motion, and then if you want to amend the motion, or if you have a motion with all the amendments ready, make that motion in full. But either way, you got to finalize your motion before you vote.
Okay.
You want to just go down those one by one?
Yeah.
All right, number 1, the monument entrance sign. If we remove the West Lake, is it still 255 square feet or
225,
That's
then.
it.
220?
She said
So we
it
get
took
back
up
to 225. Okay, from 150.
mhm.
That needs to be changed.
Okay, I've got that.
Out parcel monument signs, I don't think we had a problem with. The wall signs, it's currently 1 foot, right, of message per linear foot. We're asking for 2. Do we compromise and go to 1.5? You can still, the eye test still showed that you could see it from 400 feet away, so. And on the flip side, on the back side that's facing 55, that's going to be closer than 400 feet, right? So there's two ways to look at those out parcels. One is as you're driving by, it's going to be a lot closer, and while you're in the shopping center itself. So if nobody's opposed to it, I would recommend 1.5 foot of message per linear foot. Describe what a directional sign is. Is that you turn right, turn left, or?
Could be entrance, exit, loading dock, or something like that. Pharmacy, yeah.
It's kind of a big sign.
And those are within the property that are not on the peripheral, so they're in.
So is it directional for traffic or directional to direct people to a location?
Probably both.
Did I just hear you say pharmacy?
Vincent,
Okay. Okay, I understand. They'll run all the people over, but they can see the signs. I guess I'm okay with that. The fuel sign, I think there are already precedents set. If you drive through Lake Wiley, the LED is more common than not. Do you, does planning have a problem with the height or the size? Is it consistent with?
no, that's pretty standard fare.
That's my 2 cents.
Well, quick question, are we all in agreement on the 1.5 versus 2?
That's what I asked if anybody,
Right.
that was my proposal for the amendment. You're certainly open to comment or,
I would say, does anybody have additional thoughts on the 1.5 versus, or the 1 versus 1.5 or 2?
Well, I think the visual representation, 2 feet seemed to make more sense. if that's accurate, you know, it is slightly smaller. As I get older, my eyes are getting worse every day. So I would appreciate that. It didn't appear obnoxious to me, the size.
It's not a,
And just from my opinion, you're driving, people are moving, they're trying to find each of the establishments. It's not big enough of a difference to where it's obnoxious, but I think it would help people see better. So I would err on the side of 2 feet as well.
I'll agree with that.
And I have a comment on number 1,
All right, so
removal.
hang on, folks, here just
Yep.
a minute. I think we are in the middle of an approval motion that's hung, and we're kind of lost, and we got into discussion.
We did get into.
And so I'm not quite sure.
Mr. Bach had the main motion, and I believe he said he consented to those suggested amendments as presented. and
Correct.
I think that motion as amended requires a second.
Okay, so he'd like to make a motion with amendments,
He consented to the suggested amendments,
right?
so.
which we
not
haven't,
here.
we
Okay.
haven't defined them yet.
And so let me go ahead and give you a second.
Okay.
So that we can now fully get into the rest of our discussion.
Thank you.
And
That's what I
follow,
was asking, Michael.
follow the rules and make sure we don't get too far out of bounds here.
Yeah,
Now,
I just
we've
didn't-
discussed several
I would
things.
say I didn't feel like they were actually spelled out, so.
They haven't been, and
Now
I
we
think
are.
that's where we're in the discussion. So you already, if you wouldn't mind, because I've seen you writing down, repeat for the group where we are so far.
So we've discussed removing Westlake from the entrance monuments. We have pretty much said that we don't have a huge problem with the LED because there's probably already
Mhm.
precedent on the.
They're on every gas station.
Yep.
Right.
And
on
right now, we're
274.
discussing 1.5 versus 2, and so far, I'm hearing there are 4 of us, at least, that are okay with 2.
I concur with what's been said about that as well, so make it 5. How about you? You okay with a little
With
bit
2?
bigger?
I'm okay with 2.
Yep.
Are you okay with 2? Okay. So it sounds like that's a non-issue since that's as
Right,
requested.
as presented.
Yeah.
What was the clarification that was being asked about the 255 versus 225?
So that was on
The
the
monument
monument
sign.
entrance sign, so that the vertical writing of Westlake. that
Okay,
once
so
removed-
that's what is taking us back to 225, okay. Do we want to have a statement in there, something along the lines of what we said about allocating to the other parcel, right? I'm not sure how we phrase that. Michael, do you have a suggestion, or?
I would simply suggest that another amendment or qualification to the motion that the master sign plan includes the allocations to the back undeveloped lot on both signs, as I understand the request.
Okay.
Good.
So the new center property.
I think that's everything.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Can
And a-
we just make amendments and then have a new motion, or do we need to vote down this and then?
We have a motion with amendments and a second. I don't believe there was any clarification of the amendments other than the 2 feet, 2 feet. Is that what it is for
Mhm.
this size? And then after that second was made, there was a request for a clarification as to the sign
What-
application.
Right.
So that would need to be in the form of an amendment to the motion, which will be voted on independently if it receives a second. And then you can vote on the main motion as amended.
Sure glad you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
So it sounds like we also, though, then need to vote on each of these amendments.
You
In
can
part
do
or in
either
total?
way.
We
You
can do it in
either way.
part or in
I took
total?
it as a collective.
Okay.
Where the Mr. Bach's motion, he consented to as a friendly amendment to the motion. So you have 2 pending motions. Presumably we get a motion and a second for that amendment. You would have an amendment, and then the main
So I think
Okay.
what I'd suggest is that you motion to cover all the amendments, and we can get a second to approve that, and then that'll take us back to the main motion. Did I get that right? Not quite.
We're discussing a very narrow
Okay.
consideration. You need I viewed the main motion has already been amended with the specified components.
Understood.
Because Mr. Bach consented to that amendment before any rereading or vote. So now you need an amendment to include the back lot, the undeveloped lot. And if that passes as an amendment, then you can vote on the main motion.
10-4.
Okay, so let me just recap. We do have a motion to include the amendments of removing the Westlake sign, keeping the 2 feet as requested, which actually doesn't need to be an amendment, sorry, and approving the LED, again, doesn't need to be. And then we need to make a motion to accept or to convey that New Center property is not allowed additional signage because they're included in this master plan. And if they need it in the future, they'll have to come back. And
Okay, so I'll make a motion for that,
Make a motion to amend.
to amend with the restrictions on the signage
I'll second
as
that.
you've just outlined. Okay.
And a second, you need a second.
And she
Yes.
gave me the second.
Any discussion? Okay. So now we need to vote on each of those?
You need to vote on the amendment, you just had a motion. So vote on that amendment regarding the lot.
Okay, so on the one that's currently on the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And then
The amendment passes, and then you need to vote on the main motion with specified amendments as just amended by that motion.
That's a lot of amendments.
we got all, yeah. So
Now we're just ready to
now we're
vote.
just voting,
Yeah.
Now we're just voting again.
and we don't need to have any more discussion, correct?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Got it.
Okay. We have another thing coming up, Madam Chair, but we're coming to the 90-minute mark. Does anybody need a little break before we
I do.
continue?
So we're requesting a restroom break?
Motion for a 5-minute break?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so on to new business number 3, which is the Planning Commission will receive information requested from staff on suggestions to better protect grand trees during ongoing construction.
Yep. So I need to introduce myself. This is my first Planning Commission meeting after being here for almost 5 years. So I'm Peter Kosicki. I'm the resident landscape architect at York County here. So I'll be discussing grand trees in particular in regards to construction. So y'all voted a couple weeks ago out of concern for a project, particularly the Clover Village project up there in 274, actually just right north of the Westlake Village project up there. So staff had identified to preserve 3 grand trees up there a few years ago, I believe it was 2022. So the contractor, developer, they rolled out the tree protection fence at the ordinance defined 1-to-1 ratio, which is the 1 inch per DBH, 1 inch per DBH per canopy radius is our tree protection ratio. So they installed the fencing properly per code, but we noticed that the trees declined after just 2 years. And so after some discussion, we allowed the developer to remove them after noticeable decline due to root damage in construction. So even though the developer followed the rules, the trees still noticeably decline within that period. And so obviously there's some good discussion to have here because of this. So our tree protection fencing is failing with these larger, older trees. So the 1-to-1 ratio is a pretty standard ratio across municipalities. You look up any municipality in the area, you're going to probably find that 1-to-1 ratio. So it's pretty standard across local governments, both city and county in regards to that. But that 1-to-1 ratio does not include the nuance of tree age and tree species. So younger trees are more tolerant of construction, and certain species are more tolerant. So for instance, maple's a little bit better about tolerance. White oaks, which are most of our grand trees are white oaks or some type of oak species. They are not very tolerant of construction, particularly white oaks. I believe one of these was a 2 of them were white oaks, the other one was a pecan in this example. So we looked at some standards and did some research. I recommend to increase our tree protection ratio from 1-to-1 to 1-to-1.5. So that would be 1 inch DBH to 1.5 feet per 1 inch DBH, exactly. So where am I getting that 1.5? So there are a number of municipalities out there that have proposed this. According to North Carolina, one of the North Carolina arborist councils, a number of universities, they are a fan of this as well. And so a number of other arboricultural references would allude to this as well. Anything beyond that, it really becomes burdensome amongst the developer, is seen as extreme. So this 1-to-1.5 ratio becomes sort of the maximum ratio that I could really recommend. And this is in reference to older trees that have a radius or a root extension of up to 3 to 4 times the footprint, the canopy radius of the tree. So if you think about a white oak that's, say, 40 foot in diameter, those roots could potentially extend 120 foot and beyond the trunk of that tree, for at least especially for older trees. The younger trees, not so much. But the problem with that 3 to 4 times that 3 to 4 time or ratio, it would really become burdensome on development, especially if you have like a smaller Chick-fil-A parcel. You're really pretty much saying that parcel is not developable. So that 1-to-1 ratio, we recognize as arborist landscape architects, isn't ideal, but we have to marry that with the development realities of that site. And so that's why that 1-to-1, 1.5 ratio is really the sweet spot for protection, because it does protect the majority of your feeder roots and also your structural roots. So there's two types of really roots, main roots they really need to be concerned about with trees. You got your structural roots, you're going to be closer to your trunk, you're going to be holding your tree in place, but then you have your feeder roots, and those are going to lie in the outer extents of your tree, and those are going to want, they're just as they are described, they're going to be taking up the oxygen and the nutrients for your tree, but those are the most sensitive to construction. You cut those off, and it could kill the tree, essentially, because it's feeding the tree, and it's helping the tree survive. So I would recommend the 1.5 inch ratio as a change from the 1-to-1 ratio. And this would only be for grand trees. And another thing to state is that grand trees are inherently older trees. So, and I would leave the 1-to-1 ratio in place for tree save areas and for buffer yards, but for grand trees, because they're inherently older trees with larger root systems, and they're just not as vigorous, we need a little bit more protection for them, but I wouldn't go beyond that 1 to 1.5 ratio.
So Peter, I got a quick question for you. You talked about feeder roots, and I understand that. So with the 1.5, would the white oak be the only one that would have to be extended outside that 1 to 1.5 with the feeder roots?
I would say,
Or-
I would include most grand trees in that. Most of the grand trees in that region are going to be prone to construction damage and be sensitive. So the species that we see the most qualifying as grand trees are going to be white oaks, tulip poplars, pecans.
I know what you mean.
And I think we've seen maybe a few maples, but there's really only a handful of species that we see. And of those, white oaks are sensitive, so are tulip poplars. Pecans are kind of in the middle. Some of them are a little bit more tolerant, like willow oaks are a little more tolerant. And we've seen a couple of those here and there. They're kind of the middle of the road. There's another grand tree right up by the Tractor Supply Company just south of Clover Village, and it's doing great. And it had 1-to-1 protection there. And so you can even encroach root zones a little bit into that 1-to-1. That tree will be fine. But I just think those white oaks are particularly prone, especially the ones that are on the edge of their lifespan. So, yeah.
Could it be stipulated that in certain cases that we would just go with the arborist recommendation into, you know, what the developer has to do, or I don't know. I know it's an open-ended thing, but.
Yeah, so this arborist recommendation, would that be county arborist, which would be me?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. Because we do have third-party arborists that do submit reports to us for the recommendation as well. So,
Yeah, I'd like to keep it in the county.
okay, yes, I was going to say there's a big difference between what the county would say and what an arborist working for that developer would probably say.
And this would be, special cases where you would evaluate it and form your opinion.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that would be fine.
I think that would be nice to put that in the.
I mean, there is quite a bit of nuance in that 1-to-1 ratio is just, it doesn't hold up for a lot of these larger trees, and it's kind of an average, but like you said, there is quite a bit of variation. So, and I could see there being some discretion being a good thing on this case, so.
What if the discretion was the other way around? You set the standard at 1.5 feet, and then if someone pushes back on that or has a valid reason to require less, that becomes the exception. Because I think what we're trying to do, and what Peter's saying, is we're trying to maximize the survivability of these trees.
Right.
And if you don't allow enough space for the roots to be protected, you can't go back and change it, right?
No.
I mean, we've seen multiple examples of where damaging roots, and I'm not saying this is intentional, I'm saying this happens during the course of construction. I would say that the example you gave at Tractor Supply, that tree was protected on 3 sides. It was protected all the way around. However, the only construction traffic was on one side of that tree.
Yeah, it was.
I think what happens is if you get a tree out in the middle of a construction zone, you've got, I think they're supposed to put mulch down, and there's some other requirements. I don't know that ever happens. Do you see it happen? I would
Yeah.
just rather have are we saying the same thing?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was asking him about the 1.5.
1.5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we establish a new
yeah,
measure, then there could still be an exception that he would manage.
correct.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying.
But it's harder for him to go to 1.5 if it's not in the,
Does.
Correct.
in-
That's what, we
right?
go to 1.5.
Okay.
And then at his discretion,
Well, from a staff standpoint, it's definitely easier to start higher
yes.
and go lower, because typically developers want to try to whittle
Correct.
away at that as much as they can.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
Is-
like to go higher
Yeah.
and really keep it high.
yeah.
yes. That's what I
Is-
was trying to get.
How old do you estimate these trees? What's the lifespan of a white oak? Do you know? offhand?
That's in a book of dendrology, but I think white oaks can live hundreds of years.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's like 300 to 400
100
years.
Yeah,
But that's in the most ideal condition.
Sure.
That's in the middle of a farm field that hasn't been touched and something that's in pretty good shape. Most trees are living,
100.
I would say, around 100 or so, because there's, especially in urban settings, street trees especially have very short spans just because they're in so much stress. They're surrounded by pavement. They have very little area to absorb water and nutrients and stuff like that. So you're looking at like 30 to like 60 maybe, but yeah, it widely varies according to the environmental condition those trees are in. So yeah.
and the soils too.
Yes.
Yeah, the soils, yeah. So some of your shortest growing trees or shortest lifespan trees, like a Virginia pine or something, they'll live 60 years, but they'll still outlive, a white oak in a street tree environment if that Virginia pine is in a better environment. So environmental factors are, I would say, number one in terms of survival rates, so yeah.
Thank you for the information.
Appreciate it.
If
Real-
can we make some sort of request that there be an ordinance amendment, or does that need to come
Yeah,
back to us?
we don't have an exception in the ordinance currently, is that correct? For you to,
No, it's
or the
at a
arborists
one-to-one
do?
currently.
no, I'm sorry, hang on, we're being asked to make a recommendation or a revision to get to 1.5.
This is the draft
Yes.
amendment.
Okay.
It's in the
Yes.
draft amendment.
This is
It's
the
in the
draft
draft.
amendment.
Yeah.
My question is, does the current ordinance permit any exceptions to how grand trees are treated? That Peter, you would be the one that would be authorizing today.
Yeah, I mean, we deal a lot with mitigation, so because of our county as being a pretty hilly county, we end up issuing a lot of mitigation permits for these trees. You typically see these commercial sites in sort of 2 to, I don't know, 5 to 7, 8 acre
Yeah.
parcels.
I'm
And-
sorry, I may not have been clear with my question, and I apologize. What I'm trying to clarify is, do we need to add anything in an amendment to this that gives Peter or the county arborist, whoever that may be, the authority to adjust this requirement on a case-by-case basis? Or does that power already reside with him through the current ordinance?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
It currently does not, but the one-to-one is the maximum.
The one-to-one is currently, so I
Yes.
think what I'm hearing is, should I jump in and make a motion at this point?
Go ahead.
Well,
No,
well,
I'll
can-
make
Can
a-
I ask something? Though, it shows 1.5 is the amendment.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
That's what's before you.
So
That's
I
what's
make a
before us.
motion that we approve the proposed amendment from
Right.
staff as is, and add to that that exceptions can be made by the county arborist.
That's good, and that was what I was asking.
Okay,
basically.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll need a second.
You will
I'll
need a
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Is there any discussion?
And then what would the process be for that to take place?
Well, that would be something the county would have to put in place about what that process is, but that there would be a process for
There
you.
would be one, and that would just be what the ordinance says.
The
There is a
ordinance says
process
that
for that.
it has to go through the county arborist to get
It would
an
need to
exception.
delineate with some specificity the process he has at his disposal to address requests for reduction. And unless we have that today, then it would have to just be vetted with the planning and zoning department along with our office to set some parameters in place.
Mhm.
Hopefully, knowing that the intention, it sounds like, of the commission is that really we're looking for more protection and not a lot of variance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to our rezonings of the evening, we have rezoning 25-40, Christopher Mills applicant, William and Karen Mills owners, requesting to rezone a 2.81 acre parcel from RMX 10 to RUD. This subject parcel is located at 991 Pole Branch Road in Clover, and the property is referenced as tax map number 571000006, Council District 2.
Good evening, everybody. Thomas Newland, Long Range Planner. So this property is just south of Gaston County along Lake Wiley. The applicant proposes to allow the operation of a roadside agriculture and produce stand on the property. You can see there are a couple structures on the site, the attached single-family dwelling, a sizable garden, space for storage, as well as two curb cuts that access Pole Branch Road. This area is predominantly residential. You can tell by all the zones. The property does abut another rural development property. In the future land use, you can see this area is single-family residential and rural residential. So staff recommends approval of this request with the following condition: that the applicant remove one of the curb cuts along Pole Branch Road and create a single access point to the property. The request is consistent with the comp plan and future land use map, as it is larger than most of the other RMX 10 properties in the area, and the active use and characteristics align with the requested RUD zone. Any questions for staff?
If there are no questions, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve with the condition that the applicant remove one of the curb cuts along Pole Branch Road.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
How many curb cuts are there now? Two?
Two.
Two.
Okay.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Moving on to rezoning 25-41, ARIC Lake Wiley LLC, applicant owner requesting to rezone a 6,400 square foot parcel from PD to GC. The subject parcel is located at 5356 Highway 55 in Clover. The property is referenced as tax map number 48400000003 and is again in Council District 2.
Area might look familiar. We've talked about this a lot already tonight. But this is at the 5 Points intersection, just off Highway 55. The applicant is proposing to incorporate the parcel into the Westlake Village Shopping Center as part of its open space. It currently has a curb cut onto Highway 55 and is home to a two-story cinder block structure with a garage. So this is just some context for the Westlake property that it will be joining with. Everything around here is generally commercial. Again, Westlake Market is also general commercial as it is. And future land use has this for a neighborhood center where we're looking for those commercial uses that serve the immediate neighborhood with goods and services. We recommend approval as it's consistent with the comp plan and future land use map. They'll remove an antiquated PD for what was a special interest school. It's since been vacated. The structure's also been demolished. This contributes to the cohesive commercial development along a major intersection, and the other properties are zone GC as well. Any questions for staff?
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Moving on to rezoning 2542, Justin and Ashley Messer, applicants, John McCarter, owner, requesting to rezone a 4.43 acre parcel from AGC to RUD. The subject parcel is located at 1285 White Wolf Road in Blacksburg. The property is referenced as tax map number 16400000009 in Council District 3.
And this property is along White Wolf Road in kind of northwest region of the county near King Mountain State Park. The applicant proposes to subdivide the lot and build an additional dwelling. You can see the current dwelling is kind of centered to the south of the lot and has access directly onto White Wolf. A lot of this area is undeveloped or rural residential in character. And that's reflected in our zoning districts between AGC and RUD. And the future land use also shows this, where east side of White Wolf, rural residential, west side's agriculture, and we see a conflux of these two uses on either side of the road. So staff recommends approval of this request. It's consistent with the comp plan future land use map. The property is currently non-conforming. It's beneath that 5-acre minimum lot size in AGC, and this request will actually form 2 conforming lots to the RUD zone, and will match others within the vicinity. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, one question. Could the property owner, I know we're looking at 2 conforming lots, which is great. But under RUD, the minimum's 1 acre, right?
That's right.
So could the property owner subdivide into 4 lots? I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't know if you could do that on this, but
certainly
do they have the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, well, technically, as long as they have the acreage and it's all zoned RUD, there's that potential, yes.
That doesn't have to come back to us if they ask to subdivide into more, right? That's all handled through staff. Yeah.
That's right.
So the main sticking point here is the fact of, because in AGC, they could add a second home, but in order to do that, they've got a non-compliant property, so they have to move through this process?
Because it's less than
Have
5
10
acres.
And AGC to have a second home.
Okay. Cool, got it.
Are there any additional questions?
That was it.
If not, is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Moving on to rezoning 25-43, Forsberg LLC, applicant Daniel Smith, owner, requesting to rezone 3 parcels that total 26.57 acres from UD to ID. The subject parcels are located on Leslie Highway in Rock Hill, and the properties are referenced as tax map numbers 673-0000119 and 120 and 155. Council District 5.
Good evening, everybody. This request is to rezone, as you mentioned, 3 parcels totaling approximately 27 acres. Parcels are located on the south side of Leslie Highway, just to the east of I-77. There is a Norfolk Southern rail line that runs along the top of these parcels. They are currently a mixture of uses. The one to the furthest west is, we believe, some kind of a metal recycling business. The property in the center is mostly vacant with a little bit of storage there. And then finally, on the property to the furthest east are 5 single-family rental homes off of Hep Street. The intention here is to be able to develop the property to construct an approximately 11,000 square foot warehouse building and utilize the remaining area, about 17 acres, for some kind of outside storage, which is not an allowed use in the UD zoning district. The intention is to, in the future, develop the properties to the east there where those homes are, to remove the homes and build there as well. Zoning for the area here, there's still some significant amount of UD in the area, but just to the west of that, those properties are zoned ID, but to the south are residential properties as well. For the comprehensive plan for the area here, just to the west there is the I-77 corridor, and then this portion here where these sub-properties are located is the neighborhood residential, where it transitions more to a residential sort of neighborhood kind of uses. The proposed site plan, just kind of walk you through this here. The white areas, those white rectangles would be the future buildings. The area there in the green outline would be the area that they would have that gravel store or gravel area, maybe a laydown yard, could be some trucking operations going on there. The blue areas is potential stormwater ponds, and then the white outline is future development where those homes are right now. The applicant has voluntarily submitted some deed restrictions. One of them involves screening, and even though they aren't required to, they would screen the properties to the west side that's actually abutting the ID properties. And they've also included a list of use that they would actually prohibit from operation on these 3 sites. I'm not going to read through them, they're in your packet here, but these are ones identified that they would not want to allow there. We are recommending denial of the request here. Like I mentioned, it's not consistent with a comprehensive plan. I-77 corridor to the west, this is transitioning here to more of a neighborhood residential area or institutional area. It's also not compatible with the surrounding area. It's adjacent to a high school, just to the south of that. There's also residential uses in the area as well. And even though they've restricted a few uses, they're still allowing some uses that are probably considered non-conform or not compatible with the area here as well. Any questions from staff?
The high school is to the south, is that where it's at?
Yeah, I think if I go back to, well, there it is. So the high school is to the south, so it's
See the
actually
baseball
adjacent
field?
to it. And then the property just over here as well, I don't want to hit Michael in the head, it's also owned by a city or a Rock Hill School District. There could be a future use there as well for schools, so both that one and the school use below it.
I will make a motion to accept staff recommendation and deny the request.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
I'm sorry, is that a 1?
I'm
That's
sorry.
6-1?
I'm sorry, was there someone opposed?
No.
Okay.
No.
You just put your hand still up.
Just taking our time. Moving on to rezoning 2544. Forsberg LLC applicant, Linkwood Properties LLC owner, requesting to rezone a 1.66 acre parcel from UD to ID. The subject parcel is located at 583 Linkwood Road in Rock Hill, and the property is referenced as tax map number 66601030009, Council District 5.
So this is a 1.66 acre parcel located off of Linkwood Road in Rock Hill. It's actually within a donut hole of the city of Rock Hill. The people there, area that's been hatched is the city area there. It's currently an existing building there. It's vacant, no longer has a tenant right now, but it was previously has been different kinds of light industrial type uses. Areas around there are also other light industrial warehouse kind of uses within the city of Rock Hill, as well as some within the county. You can see here that we've added a zoning map here for those that are zoned industrial, as well as cities in parcels in Rock Hill, and residential properties just to the south in Rock Hill as well as in the county. Future land use map here for the area, here's municipal infill. And because of that, we look to the city of Rock Hill's future land use map and see what they're recommending for here. And they're included that as being an employment center, which typically you would have light industrial type use within an employment center. We're recommending denial of this request here. While it's consistent with the comprehensive future land use map, and you can have ID within that employment center, it's not compatible with the surrounding area. There are residences nearby as well as the Manchester Park. And we feel that a light industrial might be a more appropriate zoning district for this area. It's compatible with what's already there right now. Any questions for staff?
Just curious if you had any discussions with the applicant about seeking LI instead of ID when they made the request.
We've talked to them about that. I think they're having some difficulty trying to market this property and get a tenant in there, and they felt that the ID was added more opportunities for them to be able to go that route, and that's why they were requesting ID. We would still support LI for here, just given the location. You know, there are apartments just south of that.
Yep.
Mobile home park here, so there's a lot of residential properties around there for those intensive ID uses.
When I read it, that's what it was coming to mind. You'd be proud of me. I thought of LI right away.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate for what's there.
Finally starting to get the hang of this.
And that would
Diane.
allow them to get the outside storage that like be able to do there. They can't do that right now in UD.
Any additional questions? Then make a motion?
Yep, I will make a motion to accept staff's recommendation and deny this one.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Moving on to rezoning 25-45, Jonathan Kidd applicant, Robert C. and Georgia B. Kidd owners, requesting to rezone a 1.90 acre parcel from RSF 40 to RSF 30. The subject parcel is located at 1976 New Gray Rock Road in Fort Mill. The property is referenced as tax map number 656-0000022, Council District 1.
Yeah, so this property is just outside TUK's jurisdiction, in and amongst the Baxter Village development. So the applicant is seeking to subdivide the lot and build an additional dwelling. Here's a bit of a mock-up of a potential subdivision they could pursue. Certainly with the amount of acreage they have, there is technically enough land for 2 RSF 40 lots with the addition of the new 10% rule. However, we found that RSF 30 allows for more flexibility in how they may potentially divide it, given they have to account for things like a septic field.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we can see in the zoning, again, this is kind of a donut hole within Baxter Village, butts right up to DKK. Generally residential uses in the area, and that's also reflected in the future land use map. So we recommend approval of this request as is consistent with the comp plan and future land use map. The allowed use scale and character is expected within the designation, and the size of the lots created as a result of the subdivision will be closer in scale to the other residences in the area, both in TUK and in unincorporated York County. Any questions for staff?
I only have one. Will there be is it recommended by y'all to have a separate driveway to that newly installed residence, even though it's on the, or can they just share that drive?
I mean, I'm sure they could pursue an easement if they wanted to and share the driveway, but most likely I assume they would have their own driveway.
Any additional questions? Is there a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to our last rezoning of the evening, 25-47. Eric and Kristen Hunsberger, applicants owners, requesting to rezone a 1,400 square foot parcel from UD to RMX 10. Subject parcel is located at 228 Ridge Reserve Drive in Clover, and the property is referenced as tax map number 57600000162, Council District 2.
This is another property just off the lake and is part of the Herons Cove subdivision. So the applicant is proposing to build a single-family dwelling here on this undeveloped lot that was originally part of the subdivision when it was created. Here's just a quick concept of how they would do that, just kind of proof that a detached single-family home could fit here that kind of fits the form and shape of the other homes in the subdivision. And you can see there's a smattering of UD, but most of the subdivision has flipped over to RMX 20. Certainly this was once all UD once, but later when it was council initiated zoning, correct, that changed all these over, that qualified to RMX 20 to flip over. This property was, of course, too small to conform and was left out. And future land use has this all single-family residential. So we recommend approval of this request, and while it's technically not consistent with the comp plan future land use map, since the requested zone is quite a bit smaller than what's expected in single-family residential, but the allowed uses in the current UD district are incompatible with the neighborhood, considering it allows things like industrial manufacturing production and doesn't even allow residential uses. The requested RMX zone is the residential zone that accommodates a lot of this size while still allowing it to be residential. Any questions for staff?
With so many parcels there, Thomas, that are UD still, if anyone attempted to do anything there, they would still have to come to us because UD doesn't exist anymore?
There are still uses by right that exist, but unless they were grandfathered, I don't believe anything new can be constructed.
Yeah, most of these things are actually built out. There's still a couple of vacant lots within this property area here. We also allowed there's an amendment that we made to the zoning code that allows some amount of a non-conforming use to be able to have a small expansion up to a certain percentage. So if there's some properties here that are zoned UD and want to be able to add a deck, they can do that without the property getting rezoned. Before they had to get property rezoned to non-UD and then add the deck. We've made some amendments to be able to allow them to do that.
And just to clarify, I think I heard you say that council did something to rezone a lot of this?
Well, actually, it wasn't council initiated for these ones here. This is when we had the UD project back in 2015, and we went to neighbor and said, would you like to get the property rezoned from UD to a residential district? And some folks said yes, and some folks said no.
Oh,
and so
okay.
if you go back and you can see the zoning, you can tell the ones that said no are still gray.
Right, okay. And so if they attempted to do something beyond a certain expansion limit, they would have to come in
Correct.
and
If
probably
they're
get a
zoned-
rezoning?
Yes.
Okay.
We would support all of that, and it's still, there's no charge, there's no fee for that one. to
So
kinda
is
get these out of
is
here.
anything here still vacant?
There's still, I believe, one more vacant property. Sorry,
one
Thomas, I'm
next
taking
door.
over your
I was
thing.
saying,
That's
the
fine,
one
take
next-
it.
Yeah,
Looks
there's
like the
still, I
one
think,
right
the
next
neighbor next door, I believe, is still vacant.
And that one's still UD?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
But they can't build a convenience store there? In UD, right?
Setback in frontage would probably stop it.
Car wash.
Probably wouldn't have enough room for setbacks.
Have to be a
in there,
residence.
Right? Okay.
Are there any additional questions?
No.
No. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Is any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So we are finished because our last rezoning was deferred. Taking a look at the rezoning tracking sheet, are there any questions? Nope. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
There we go.
All those in favor?
This time I'll bring